Looks like we have some council members that's on the call. So council members, if you can, in your respective district order, if you can go ahead and just acknowledge that you're on the call, and you can go ahead and do that now.
Hi, this is Councilmember Sean Parker in the 5th District. I'm on the call. Thank you all for being here.
Hi, this is Brett Withers from District 6. I'm on the call. Thank you for being here.
Jeff Syracuse.
Good afternoon. This is Sharon Hurt, and I am council member at large.
Jeff Syracuse, District 15 is here.
Have any other council members on the call?
It's Councilmember Brandon Taylor, District 21.
Thank you, council members. Can our representatives from our agencies go ahead and introduce themselves to the Community Foundation, Long-Term Recovery, and other agencies as well? You can go ahead and do that also.
This is Rebecca Finley, a facilitator and administrator of the Long-Term Recovery Group.
This is Greg Bailey. I'm also facilitator and administrator for Long-Term Recovery Group.
This is Lori Shinton with Hands On Nashville.
Okay, is that all the agencies on the meeting? Okay, I take that as a yes. So because we have a lot of information that we're going to be covering today, just for the sake of the agenda, we're going to go through the tornado 6-month report and then the tornado construction PowerPoint. And then we'll take any additional questions from council members that they may have as it relates to these 2 items. And I don't know who's going to present the tornado 6-month report. I don't know if that's going to be Mr. Bailey or someone from the Community Foundation, or in addition to who's going to present on the tornado construction PowerPoint. But I'm ready to turn that over to those presenters.
Sure, absolutely. This is Amy Fair from the Community Foundation, and I will be presenting on both of those. I know that the documents were shared with council. I know we discussed with Rosie the possibility about sharing our screen. It doesn't look like that is enabled on my screen, so I can at least just talk about the why behind it, what information was included there, and how that's part of a larger communication initiative that we have to make sure that we're as transparent as possible about all of the grant making from the fund. And then the purpose for my sending over the construction framework was to give you some background information about a grant that has been approved but not yet paid related to the repair and rebuild that is in process in the pipeline, getting people through case management and getting to that place. So the purpose of the 6-month report, and if there comes a point where I am able to share my screen, I will. The purpose of the 6-month report, and that can be found along with all other information about the grant application, updated stories. Many of the council members on this call I know are familiar with it, as we've had not only the previous meeting of this group, but also individual meetings with council members. So the purpose of tornadoresponse.com is really to get all of that information out there so people know what we're working on. With the 6-month anniversary coming up, we knew that we had some additional information that expanded beyond grant making that we wanted to share. We wanted to give some of the numbers. Some of the council members saw the numbers before, some of the details about the grant making. but we wanted to make that more publicly available to the community. And so that's really where the 6-month report came in. In that 6-month report, we have information about the grants that have been made in terms of grant dollars out, the categories that all of the grants have represented, the primary needs, and a dollar breakdown in that area. We didn't include in that report a full list of the 127 grants to the 100 agencies because it would have probably at least doubled the report. And all of that information, we pointed back to tornadoresponse.com. To date, we've made those 127 grants to 100 different organizations. Our regular rhythm for grant making, the committee meets once per month. If we have grants or other business in between, we take advantage of that. And the application is open for nonprofit organizations to apply at any time. And we've had repeat applications to some of the organizations that are really working deeply in tornado response. We've had inquiries from some new organizations that weren't aware that we were even doing grant making for tornado, but because of some of the publicity around the 6-month report, they read an article in the Tennessee Tribune, or they saw a news report on one of the news stations. And so we've gotten a couple of calls from potential grantees as a result of the publicity around the report. There are, and I know this has been a question from some of the council members in terms of, okay, you're showing me the organizations that have gotten support, but who, if you have any, have you told no for grants? And we do have a list of those organizations. They fall sort of in two categories. They are organizations that have come in with a grant and it's a little off the mark, but we've helped them redirect it. And so their original application was not a go or presented to the committee, but with it being reshaped, they were able to receive some support. An example of that is an organization that came in with a rather large ask to say, oh, we want to hire case managers to do case management. And we said to them, well, we already have the tornado recovery connection in place. That's not really an appropriate request. Perhaps we know you're doing great work. You can go back to the drawing board and find a space that you can make a proper request for. There is a group of other agencies, and there are about 30 of them, and that is across the 3 counties. So probably in Davidson County, about 10 organizations that they've come in with a request and we've said, no, you certainly can come back with something, but this request is for COVID. It's not for tornado, and we've redirected them at the time because some of these were earlier grants back to the United Way for their COVID funding and some other resources. A couple of other grants, which were early, said, oh, we want to do peer group work in the schools. And as we all know, MNPS is not physically back in the schools. So we told that organization, no, we're not going to approve anything like this right now because students aren't even in school. If it comes to a point when students are back in school, we can relook at those. And then there were some other requests that were just not really tornado appropriate or were very unclear. And then one of the things we do as staff is if something is unclear, if it's an organization that we're not really aware of their work in the community, we reach out to them, have a conversation, and really try to get a better sense in person of something that wasn't represented on the paper. And so, you know, there were some applications that were submitted that I will say that they weren't people working in the tornado, they were people in tornado relief, they were people working on aspiring to work in tornado, and so didn't really have a clear plan, and in many cases, the work they were recommending that they be part of was duplicative of some other agencies that were already active in the tornado relief. So that's kind of the straightforward information about the report. Included in that report is just a sampling of some of the reporting that we've gotten back. Of course, with the number of agencies that we have, we are going to do a separate, larger report as the totality of that is put together. But we just wanted to give the community a sense of some of the key organizations in some of the top areas of need: food, diapers, housing, of the kind of work that they are supporting, the zip codes that they are supporting people in, and we are getting that same kind of data from every agency. And for many of the organizations, they've spent all of the money that we've given them. Some others still have open dollars and resources, and we'll be following up with them until they have fully spent that money. And if it turns out that they have more money than they need, they'll be returning those funds to the Community Foundation so we can recycle them for other purposes.
Amy, you now have share capability, so you can share your screen now.
Okay. It says I can share a file. I can share a file or a whiteboard, not my screen. But I can probably pull up a file. Oh, there we go. Now it's.
You can see it.
Okay, let me pull up my. So here we are. The 6-month report is one of the top choices on the header bar at tornadoresponse.com. In addition, if people care to download and print the report, it's about a total of 12 pages. It gives some background information, some details about the homes that had damage in the tornado. And then we talk a little bit about the roles of the long-term recovery groups. And Greg and Rebecca will talk more about that, but we really wanted to put the details out there for people to better understand those committees, those groups, and then the committees that were under them, the money received information. And then also, I think, much of what we knew during the flood, that some people felt that Nashville wasn't really on the map for people to even know that we had a flood. But in 2020, people from all 50 states and 35 foreign countries made contributions to the fund. So we are definitely on the radar more than ever. Information about the grant dollars distributed, grants made. The grant dollars pending relate to the construction committee and the protocol that's in place for that. Because we wanted to have sort of quick action when those repairs and rebuilds come to place, we went ahead and pre-approved a dollar amount with the TBD grantees being one of the 14 nonprofit or church-based agencies that have self-identified as being supportive of repair and rebuild in Davidson County and in Wilson County. And then we broke down some of the detail about the organizations and where they are serving. One of the things especially to note, and I mentioned this at a Community Foundation board meeting this week, is that, we have a number of agencies that have been county specific in their work primarily, but as a result of the tornado, they have really stepped up and kind of spread their wings in supporting other counties. So it's really been a multi-county initiative for many agencies. There's the information broken down by category of need, and then we broke it out to give you a little more in-depth detail about the dollars around the key areas. And then here's the grant accountability piece. So the organizations are required to do the reporting. I have 4 examples here that represent a range of organizations. One of the other things that we're looking at too, so that we're being coordinated in our effort of how we distribute the money. Greg and Rebecca will talk about it a little bit, but we're getting regular information from the Tornado Recovery Connection about their top referral needs. And in reviewing that information, making sure that there are agencies out in the community that they're referring people to that have dollars available to serve tornado survivors. So as additional grants come forward, much of that grant work will be informed by what we're seeing through the case management referral process. But here we have the food pharmacy at Nashville General, which delivers food. They're doing it both for tornado and for COVID. They deliver food totes through a very easy process, and they're doing that all across Davidson County. I've talked to them recently because we're adding them to an additional list for referral since food is the top need, and especially for seniors or people that aren't able to get out, having that delivery capacity really adds value to that purpose. But they deliver meals on Wednesdays and Fridays with a quick referral to an email. The Hope Station, which is an agency that serves single mothers and single mothers who are working that don't qualify for other aid. They do a lot of rent and utility work, supporting families, but also what we've seen in the tornado, the agencies which may have done 1 or 2 things, they really are trying to wrap themselves around people and serve those multi-needs that a lot of the tornado survivors have experienced. And then Mother to Mother, which helps families with babies. If it's been a while since you've had a baby, you don't quite know how expensive diapers and formula are. And so they are one of 2 agencies that we've worked with and made grants for diaper and other baby care. We've also supported the Latinx community through Turk. We've also made a grant to Conexión, and their work has been in Davidson County as well as some of the other counties that have been impacted by tornado. And I won't talk too much about the outreach because that is Greg and Rebecca's work, but we do have information here about outreach. What I will say about that is that it's effective. We are really looking at what is every communication tool at our resource to try to reach out to people to let them know that there is someone here to assist them, because there are some people that don't know. I mean, just like I mentioned, someone saw a news story and they just found out that there's money available for tornado survivors. People consume their information different ways. Certainly social media is a place that it was not in 2010, but that sort of shoe leather, getting out, knocking on doors, really has elicited telephone calls to the Tornado Recovery Connection, as well as some mailing efforts that we've done. So we're really trying to turn over every rock of how we can reach out to individuals in the community. I know when we spoke with the council members that we had, we spoke to them because you have such great relationships. Maybe you have a newsletter, maybe you have a regular get together with your constituents. So many of you were great to share this information. And the more that all of us can think about what are all those ways that we can reach people, we're going to get more people to understand that we're available to support them. And then here is the information about the committee and the members of the committee and the staff. And again, tornado response that we update on a regular basis, where all the information is, so people can go there and know that there's probably something new that they haven't seen if it's been a while.
Okay, thank you, Amy. What we're going to do, we'll go ahead to turn it over to Greg. And then after Greg and his team, we'll take questions at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Councilperson Fletcher, it's Rebecca Finley. I'm actually going to start the presentation for the long-term recovery group. Could you give me access to share my screen, please?
Michael, can you allow Rebecca to be a presenter?
It's transferring now.
Great, thank you.
I love when technology works.
So do I. Let me give this a shot. It hasn't worked quite yet, so let me just give it a whirl here. Okay. Can you all see my screen at all?
No.
Okay. Screen recording. Okay, I am attempting to get this to work. I apologize, but it is asking me for some security.
Michael, do you know what that may be?
Her computer might not be configured properly, but I can't say for sure without looking.
Oh, I apologize. I know that I just presented to the Office of Emergency Management, so I know that this works. Let me try one more time.
I'm going to try to take the presenter role away and then give it back to you. Is that okay?
That sounds great. Thank you.
I may have jinxed you, Rebecca.
That's okay. Get through it.
This is Councilman O'Connell's one of his pet peeves too. So about when the technology doesn't work.
I apologize. I apologize. Try this one more time.
Okay, Rebecca, you want to go ahead and give it another go?
I will give it another go. Okay. I'm asking for it to provide access to my screen. I'm going to click this.
When it asks you for permission,
Yes.
you select yes or continue, whichever option shows up.
Yes, I've done that. Okay. And seemingly I have no opportunity to do this. I am so sorry. I could perhaps email this to Amy and see if we could do it that way.
Hey, Rebecca, let me see if I can share it.
That'd be great, Greg.
Let's see what happens if I do that. Let me get out of a couple of things here. Bring it up, see if I can.
Michael, can you give Greg access?
I have access.
Okay. And while you're doing that too, just want to acknowledge we have additional council members that's joined. We have Councilman Freddie O'Connell and Councilwoman Quante Toombs on the meeting as well.
Hold on one second. Well, give me one more second and we should have this.
Greg, your mic.
It says it's loading a file, so I'm trying to share the actual file with you. So it's about 80% shared. So just give me one more second. Let's see if it comes up. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry for the delay. Rebecca, you just cue me whenever you're ready to move forward.
Okay, I think it might be helpful for just really quickly just to share how Greg and I got into this position. So we were actually hired by the Community Foundation to re-energize the VOAD, the Voluntary Organizations Assisting in Disaster. On March 2nd, we actually signed a contract to do stakeholder relations and to pull that group back together, which had since fallen by the wayside. And then, of course, 6 hours later, a tornado hit, and we have been full on in the long-term recovery group effort and facilitating that. Next slide, Greg, if you wouldn't mind. I just want to talk just a minute. We'll be very brief about the vision and the values of the work that we're doing. We are focused on the survivor. We are human-driven and data-focused. We are trying to get as much information that will help inform the next disaster so we are more prepared. We want to be agile and responsive to the survivors, and this is not about a single organization doing work in a silo. It's a compilation and a coordinated effort between dozens of organizations to meet the needs of the survivor. Next slide. Why coordination is important? Of course, we know it reduces redundancies. It creates that communal response to recovery that we need. It avoids duplication in funding. And in the end, it does make recovery more seamless for the survivor. Next slide. We just want to refresh everyone on the organizations who are actually at the table working on this effort. Of course, volunteer management is handled by Hands on Nashville. Lori, of course, their executive, is on this call. Construction management is managed by Westminster Home Connection. They've been very involved with rebuilding homes related to disaster recovery, and were very involved during the flood and continue to be today. Casework and case management is handled by the United Methodist Committee on Relief. The United Methodist Committee on Relief has been doing disaster case management since 1940 and come to this effort with a lot of experience. Allocations and distribution is being managed by the Community Foundation and the United Way. Advocacy efforts are being managed by Catholic Charities. Alicia Haddock, who's the executive at the Magruder Center in North Nashville, alongside the Office of Neighborhoods within the Mayor's office, Kathy Buggs. And materials management, of course, is being handled by the Community Resource Center, which is Tina Doninger and her very small, tiny yet mighty team that continues to get goods into the community. I'm going to go next slide and toss it over to Greg to talk a little bit about the administrative structure of our group.
Thanks. In the center, you see Hannah Davis with the Mayor's office is our partner in this work with Rebecca and myself. And our jobs beginning at 1 o'clock is continuing to monitor and evaluation on the progress of long-term recovery, managing back office kind of things. We haven't had to develop policy, but we are coordinating that if we need to. Physical management, just watching and keeping up with the grant process, working on the community relations side. I'm getting ready to show you a list of the organizations involved. And so we have a a huge group. So working with them and co-mingling them when they need to work together on a particular project, and the communication side, and then the data information and management. And that's really critical right now as we begin to move deeper into recovery. What we want to be able to do is come away from this to be informed as a community about what a disaster, how a disaster has changed in 10 years, and what the next 10 years in terms of preparation is going to look like. And we want to do that with data. Want to just call your attention again to the Tornado Recovery Connection. That is the helpline for anyone who has who needs help in terms of recovering from the tornado, touching on everything from food and nutrition all the way through rebuilding their house. That's the number they call. We've serviced mostly, I think, all the council with this number before, and we're obviously happy to do that again so that you can share with your constituents if you hear of someone who has unmet needs and needs some help in their recovery efforts. This is the organizations involved in the overall recovery effort. You can see there are all types of nonprofits, obviously the Office of the Mayor of the city, and just working with dozens and dozens of groups in various ways that are now part of our committee structure that Rebecca outlined. The advocacy committee is doing a lot of great work right now in terms of helping survivors. One of the things we just want to show you that in terms of our overall outreach, we just finished a direct mail piece to every affected home in the tornado path. We said even if someone's house is destroyed, we're hoping that they forwarded their mail so that they'll get this, the flyer, and be able to pick up the phone. Our friends at UMCOR did tell us this week that they did see a boost in the calls to the helpline from the direct mail piece. Here's some FEMA numbers for you. Give you an example of, FEMA came in, they were here 2 weeks, and then they left when COVID really picked up. And so you can see the total registrations. FEMA inspected 2,063 dwellings, pushed on 2,945 referrals, found about 20% of the registrations were eligible for FEMA dollars, and then the total funds into the marketplace is $1.9 million. One thing to let you all know is that FEMA works with underinsured and non-insured homeowners. So that's their audience, and that's who will get grants from FEMA. And right now they're working on the case management side on FEMA appeals, and then also working with people on SBA loans. As you may know, they do give homeowners loans in the case of a disaster. So here's sort of Rebecca, you want to walk through these goals?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
So early in the recovery effort, we did lay out some goals that would get us through the first 6 months and beyond. As you can see, it was really putting together the case management structure and essentially the back-end structure of the LTRG. We promoted the appropriate information like the FEMA deadline, of course, the casework phone number. The midterm goals, really the work that we focused on May to August was standing up those construction teams for rebuild. So there are about 14 organizations who work under the construction team at Westminster to assist those who are coming through UMCOR's case management structure. We've worked closely on data collection with Metro Social Services and with a PhD, Dr. M from Meharry, to put together a tool for data collection. Really going forward, we're focused on monitoring, making sure the teams are working closely together and ensuring that the needs of the survivors are met. A couple of really quick points I want to make related to Tennessee Recovery Connection, which is the helpline that UMCOR facilitates. A total of 1,716 contacts have been made through the efforts of UMCOR and or others who are working alongside them. 445 screening tools have been completed. Of those 445 screening tools, 147 report that they can recover on their own. 306 report that they cannot recover on their own. Of those 306, about half of them are renters, and the other half, of course, are homeowners. In terms of the needs that have been identified, the top 3 needs identified are food and nutrition, FEMA advocacy, so working with survivor to appeal the FEMA, and of course utilities, assisting in the payment of NES, electric bills, water bills, and other utilities. Go ahead, Greg.
All right. I'm not sure we're going to be able to show the iMappler. I'm going to click and see if it pops up. I don't think it's going to. But if you want to take that, URL down, iMappler.com/NashTornado/ Garrett Harper at Metro Social Services and I, we've known each other a long, long time. And so he reached out and we started talking to him very early on in this process. And he has been very helpful with us and working with the codes data and Dr. Emmett Meharry to create the iMappler map. If you go to that website, you'll be able to see, you can see the path of the tornado. We may have shown this to you before one other time, where you can drill down to actual addresses and look at in some cases photos of damage. In most cases, it's just a Google map photo, but you can find out the houses that have had severe damage or destroyed or just affected damage, which could be a window blown out or a gutter off or something like that. So this is the core group that works every week together. We meet every Monday afternoon to talk about issues and opportunities in front of us. You'll see those. The other thing that the long-term recovery group is doing is putting together another outreach to tornado survivors on September the 26th. And Lori Shinton from Hands on Nashville, and Hands on Nashville is coordinating that work. So I'm going to let her talk about that work as well as the other great work on debris removal that Hands on Nashville has been doing. So I will stop sharing this momentarily.
Can you let Representative Love in the meeting too? He's also joined us.
He's in.
Okay, Lori, it's all yours.
All right. Yeah, thank you all. As Greg mentioned, I'm Lori from Hands on Nashville. So as Greg mentioned, on September 26th, I'm going to start with the canvassing just for continuity. We are planning to go door to door again in Donaldson and Hermitage and in East Nashville. We will be running, because of social distancing and whatnot, we're going to be running 2 shifts in Donaldson Hermitage from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we have about 500 homes to canvass in Donaldson Hermitage. And we're just, volunteers will be going door to door. They're going to have a pamphlet. They're going to be trained by UMCOR and how to address survivors and let them know what resources are available. We will be at 3 smaller locations in East Nashville, Frederick Douglass Park, Bass Park, and Riverside Drive. That's going to be our meetup spots. And we're going to be requesting up to 10 volunteers for each of those locations in East Nashville. And we have about 350 homes to canvass there. There are an additional around 550 homes in North Nashville. That one is being led by the North Nashville Coalition with whatever support they need from Hands on Nashville. And lastly, just to talk a little bit about some of the work that Hands on Nashville has been doing over the last 2 or 3 months. Once the restrictions got lifted and we could get back out into the community, we realized there was still a good bit of debris that people were dealing with. And so we started with about 72 total requests for debris removal. And as of the end of last week, we have cleared about 21 of those projects. And we are pretty much at the point now, and those have been all over town, some in North, some in East, some in Hermitage, and Donaldson. We're pretty much at the point now that it's going to take heavy equipment and less non-skilled volunteers. So that's the next phase of the debris removal. I just want to say that Public Works has been wonderful to work with and has, come around and picked up the debris as volunteers have brought it to the street. So it's been a great partnership, and it's one of the things that people have chosen to come out and volunteer again for during this social distance era. So that's where we are on those two things.
Thank you so much, Lori. We'll now go to council members. If they have specific questions regarding the allocations, the construction, the tornado construction for Amy or for Greg. So you can go ahead and ask those specific questions that you may have. I'll kick it off with my first one. For Councilman Brendan Taylor's district, I believe he told me it's about 73% rental. Do we know where those displaced neighbors are and what type of assistance is being provided to them?
This is Amy. I do know that there are a number of the nonprofits that have received grants that have helped people with both temporary housing and some what I would call maybe semi-permanent housing. The Hope Station has helped a number in 37208, a nonprofit called Broken, Restored, Redeemed Ministries. I know that early on, Gideon's Army was helping a lot of people with being rehoused immediately after the tornado, and those were all in 37208. I know that's been a common theme that among the council members is like, well, I know I have people that were affected, but I don't know where they are. But I do know that there are large groups of them that are being served. And even if you look at the case numbers, the largest numbers that have contacted Tornado Recovery Connection are in 37208, and that's also the largest group that has moved forward through the case management process.
One final question for me, Amy. How is it determined the amount of the appropriation for the organizations? We've raised about 12 million and only allocated about 8 million. I'm sorry, 4 million. So we have a remaining 8 million that could potentially be allocated for tornado recovery.
Well, we have the four plus million that has been paid, and then that 1.125, which is set aside for sort of initial repair and rebuild. The thing that I will say is that really in recovery after a disaster, the time horizon is fairly long. To give you a comparison, it's not apples to apples because the flood was so much larger, but in the after action report post-flood, 1 year after action, we had actually spent less money at that point in time that we granted out. That's because what ends up happening is there are some people that are immediately assisted on the front end. Maybe they just need a referral to get into housing, or maybe they just needed food. And then we move into the group of people that have smaller repairs, somewhat of a quicker fix on their housing situation to stabilize them. Those tend to be lower dollar. As we go along the time continuum, the dollar amounts become larger because what ends up happening through the case management pipeline is the people that have had a bit more time in case management because they've been working with FEMA or they've had some advocacy with their insurance company, they tend to be those people with those much larger dollar impacts to their living situation. So it may look as though we're hoarding the money, but that's because we know what will happen is as we continue to move forward, those people that have those larger dollar needs will be rolling through the process, working through their FEMA issues, working through their insurance issues, and then they will present as having really a much larger need than some of those quicker fixes on the front end.
Questions from other council members?
Yes, this is Councilmember Sharon Hurt. And I actually have two questions. Well, first, let me just say that we really do appreciate everything that the Community Foundation has done and all of you all who are working with the Community Foundation and making sure that funds are received and distributed. So I cannot tell you how grateful many of us are for the work that you all do. But the two questions that I have, first of all, is the North Nashville Coalition. What members consist of that coalition, and how is that information disseminated amongst the North Nashville community? Because I'm not sure who is working with them. I do know that Alicia Haddock is working, and she's Catholic Charities, and I know she's over at Magruder Community Center, but I'm not sure. When you just spoke of the North Nashville Coalition, I don't know who those individuals are. And my second question is how do you determine what will be supported? Because, you know, we've had a conversation in regards to capital. And in order for people to actually have permanent housing, there's going to need to be some capital spending to help build or rebuild homes for individuals, especially those who are renters. And with 73% of those individuals in North Nashville being renters, the landlords see this as an opportunity for them to refurbish the homes, and now they're able to get market rate on those homes and rent them out to others who will be willing to live in that community and live in a much more modernized home. So some organizations in North Nashville are looking to try to provide some housing for those renters who are unable to become homeowners, and therefore capital improvement money is basically needed. And I'm just wondering how it is that when you have a tornado to destroy homes and the ability to provide housing, that it is not used directly to rebuild housing.
Absolutely. Thank you for your questions. I'll address the North Nashville Coalition first. I know that's probably confusing, especially to you, because I know you're part of another North Nashville Coalition. So really there are two groups in North Nashville. The one that had the previous outreach event and is going to have the additional outreach event at the Magruder Center. The two lead organizations, what I would call the co-chairs of that group, are Catholic Charities with Alicia in that role, and then Kate Shields, who is with Gideon's Army. So they have been involved with that. In addition, additional groups that are part of that work, the West Nashville Dream Center, the Belonging Company with Belonging Co., which is a church, and the last group is Corner to Corner, but it is Catholic Charities and Gideon's Army that are leading that up, and that home base is Magruder Center. On the question of capital, I'll address this kind of in chunks. I think the discussion that Sharon, we've had before related to capital as it related to organizations, as opposed to individuals. What is true in rebuild, it was true in the flood, it's true with tornado, is that we absolutely, if you look at, we're helping people rebuild homes, that is capital support. But the focus really of the disaster recovery is on the individual recovering. We have had some perspective of our committee this year that did learn of a number of nonprofit organizations that were impacted, that they did look at providing some support for those organizations. One of the key kind of tenets or philosophies of tornado recovery is really helping people recover and getting them back to pre-disaster wholeness. That's the perspective. And while we know certainly in Nashville, there are a great number of people in the community that where they were pre-tornado wasn't particularly good. But in terms of the role of disaster recovery, it's really to get people back to where they were, say, on March 2nd. In terms of the issue of North Nashville, where there are renters and the homeowners are landlords, really the focus of the money are those that are directly impacted by the tornado. Historically, there hasn't been support for landlords because of the exact reason that you're talking about, that somebody goes and fixes the house up and then pushes out their renters. In fact, we've seen and heard of that already. I do know, as part of the long-term recovery discussion, as we've talked about, Hannah Davis, who is the affordable housing manager, who's co-leading that with Greg and Rebecca, the concern for North Nashville, the concern for the renters is top of mind for the Affordable Housing Office. And I know that they've been thinking about what are some of the strategies that they can work on from a funding perspective that might be able to help landlords if they are willing to maintain affordable housing in the community. So renters are on the top of mind for us on the long-term recovery group. And I think that covers the answers to most of your questions, unless you say, no, Amy, you didn't cover this.
Well, you answered it, but I guess my question is why not consider that? The North Nashville Tornado Relief Coalition, the other group that you're talking about, consists of the NAACP, the IMF, Lee Chapel, New Covenant Christian Church, JUMP, and the Urban League. And you're talking about 200, 300, 400 years of working in that community combined. And they have been working with individuals. And if they are supported in a grand way, then it allows them to be able to support more individuals for whom they have already supported. But when you are providing a small amount that has to be dispersed amongst many, then the impact is much less than what it actually could be had a larger amount of money been given. And I would just encourage you to rethink that, and especially when you're looking at organizations that have been in the community. You know, the NAACP and the Urban League have been there for over 100 years, such as Lee Chapel and New Covenant Disciples of Christ. And, you know, I just think that that we've got to look at things in a different way now in order to make sure that we're reaching everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurt, was that a combination of a statement and a question?
Well, the last comment I made was basically a comment and not necessarily a question.
Do we have any feedback from Amy? Can you provide any feedback regarding Councilwoman Hurt?
Well, I think I understand because I know I've had some conversations with some of the other North Nashville group that she's a part of, and we talked about, well, what about providing funding for this group or a member in that community to build its affordable housing of its own as new affordable housing. Certainly serving North Nashville, there are some nonprofit affordable housing providers that are working in that community currently. And I think certainly I appreciate, and like I said, we've talked considerably about renters, about North Nashville, about affordable housing. But in terms of the role of the tornado recovery money, you know, maybe it turns out we have fewer people than we think and we'll have a larger sum of money at the end. But really the goal of the Tornado Recovery Committee is reaching as many tornado survivors as possible. And so I think right now, we're still fairly early into identifying all of those individuals and supporting them at that individual level. But certainly if there is money available at the end and a continuing need, we certainly are not willing to, you know, we're not going to say, oh, no, we can't do that. We have this money. We're willing to be flexible, but the goal right now is reaching as many individuals as possible.
Okay, well, let me just make a statement. I can tell you that the North Nashville community, and I've told you this, Amy, that, you know, during the flood and during other disasters and such as this, the North Nashville community has of the feeling, and it's not only a feeling, but it's a fact that there's been disproportionate support for the North Nashville community. And when you have $8 million that you're sitting on or not sitting on, but, and I know you don't like using the word sitting on because you do plan to use it, but when you have $8 million and people are still out here suffering, then there's a disconnect where we don't really understand when there's some funding available to really put to work to help some individuals. And by the time it's over with, or by the time you release those funds, it may be too late. So when you can do things to assist and help create a different environment, you know, when Black Nashville does well, then all of Nashville does well. The best of us got to help the rest of us. And it's just necessary. And while many in that North Nashville community we're trying to combine our resources together in order to create something and make something happen. And where in other parts of Nashville, the resources are, it seems to be plentiful. And with that, we're just looking at the opportunity to make, you know, to build capacity, to make a difference where we're able to do it, and we won't have to come to you and to others in the future. But if we don't have but scraps to begin with, it makes it much more difficult for us to build and get the type of traction in order to make the kind of impact that obviously is needed.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly have made investments in North Nashville. I know all the members of your coalition have received grants, and certainly we would entertain additional grants for that sort of direct service work with tornado survivors. So certainly know that that door is always open. That's what we've said to every nonprofit organization. I think the bigger thing where we're challenged is that question about a large capital outlay. But I definitely want to keep the conversation open and going.
And I think it would probably be helpful if the demographics, if you were able to show the metrics on where how much money was actually given to the minority community versus given to others, and we look at it and see just how it really has impacted and what can be done. So thank you very much.
Representative Love.
Thank you so much, Councilor Birch, and let me thank all the council members for allowing me to be on this call, and also the folks from the Community Foundation. Whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, in my case, I was pastoring a church in both of these disasters. St. Paul AME Church on West Hamilton during the flood, and now Lee Chapel AME Church during the tornado. And so much of what you said about the long-term recovery effort is correct. Unfortunately, I experienced personally trying to get funds for folks on West Hamilton and the border area long after the funds had been expended, only to find that they were spent someplace else, not by Community Foundation, but by other entities. And we were sitting there waiting for some more funds to come in, and kept being told they'd all been spent out. And so I'm glad to see you have at least $8 million left over, because just yesterday I delivered a check for $10,000 to a resident on 16th Avenue who's rebuilding his home. And so I'm also glad to hear that if I apply for funds additionally, then Lee Chapel will be able to get some funds to do direct services. And so I'm happy to hear that, because I was concerned about what the process and procedure was for those of us who are out there directly making these payments. Along with my committee at Lee Chapel, we were blessed to be able to take in some other funds in addition to what the Community Foundation gave us, and able to pay the electric bills for 71 residents in 37208 who are 55 years and above, who had 30 and 60 90 and 100 20 past due electric bills and had no way to get them paid. And so I echo the sentiments of many of my colleagues at the local level about a concern for recovery. And I would just emphasize that as you deliberate on projects, that you do give some consideration for those organizations that you know are doing direct work with the residents in those areas, because at the end of the day, whether Community Foundation gives any more money, or Friz Foundation, or anybody gives you more money, I know of at least 3 people who will hear directly from the residents. That's going to be Councilman Taylor, it's going to be myself, and it's going to be Councilor Sharon Hurt. Then they'll get to the other council persons next, but we'll be the ones who will hear directly that they did not get any funds. And I have concerns about all these blue tarps on top of the buildings and houses in North Nashville. And so I will be following up to see what I can do through Lee Chapel to assist with helping distribute some of these funds, as I know of specific people who are in the process right now. And Councilman Taylor's been a great help, even maneuvering people through this permitting process. And so let me apologize on the back end that I did not have a question per se, Councilor Bircher, but I had a statement to make. Thank you.
As always, Representative Love, we are more than thrilled to have you engage us on the local level. Because we know it takes a collaboration to transform our communities. Do we have any other council members that have any additional questions? This will be my last call. Any other council members that have additional questions? want to say thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much, Greg, and everyone that's been assisting the city in the tornado recovery efforts. Thank you, Representative Love. Thank you to Metro IT and to the council members for being on this this 6-month follow-up as it relates to tornado recovery. This will not be the last committee meeting. We'll have one in the upcoming months, again, to make sure that we are on target as it relates to assisting our citizens in recovering from the tornado. So thank you so much, and I'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.